Zacchaeus in our gospel story today was trying to do a very simple thing. He just wanted to see who this Jesus was. He had some obstacles. There was a crowd. He was short. And so he found a solution, a simple one, really. Just climb a tree on the path that Jesus is going to use to go through Jericho on his way to somewhere else. What happens to Zacchaeus is that not only does he get to see Jesus, but more importantly, Jesus sees him. Now, Zacchaeus, we are told at the very beginning of the story, is a chief tax collector. Not any tax collector, a chief tax collector, and a very wealthy man. So, tax collectors, especially chief tax collectors, were not well liked at all. They were looked down upon. They were considered to be grave sinners because they had no nationalistic sense in them. They were not very particularly interested in the state of Jerusalem. Second of all, they were collectors predominantly of their fellow Jews. They made sure they paid the taxes. Who likes tax collectors? And third of all, he was wealthy. So it's obvious at the very beginning of the story, Zacchaeus has a number of problems. His height, his desire to see Jesus, and he is obviously aware of what people think about him, and it's not very nice. But Jesus sees all of that in Zacchaeus and decides to stop his journey right there in Jericho and invites himself to Zacchaeus' home. Jesus knows what tax collectors are thought of amongst his own people. Jesus knows that they would be considered lost souls. Jesus has come for lost souls. And Zacchaeus is one of them. So he invites himself to dinner. Zacchaeus is full of joy, to be able to welcome him to his home, to feed him and comfort him with all the comforts that Zacchaeus, the rich man, has to offer. But Zacchaeus doesn't just get to see Jesus, he encounters Jesus. He listens to Jesus. He pays attention to what he has to say. And obviously, it makes a difference in Zacchaeus' life. I'm going to give half my possessions to the poor. If I've defrauded anyone, I'll pay them back 4 times. Zacchaeus has a conversion experience because he has allowed himself to encounter Jesus. It's easy to see Jesus. I can look at a crucifix, a beautiful one like this. I can look at the images of Christ on beautiful stained glass windows. I can pay attention to the stories of Jesus in the gospel. I can see Jesus in the beauty of creation. I can see Jesus in people and the way they act. But to encounter Jesus is a different story. It goes right to the depths of our hearts. It goes to the depths of our souls. It invites us to convert, to turn away from sin. When we encounter Christ, we are drawn out of ourselves and into Christ. And that's what gives us the grace to turn away from sin. That's what gives us the grace to be charitable and generous. That's what gives us the grace to be loving and compassionate and forgiving. That's what an encounter with Jesus does. That's what it did to Zacchaeus. That's what it does to us when we allow ourselves to be open and to encounter Christ in our lives.